Sarangsae Church, along with some other churches across Korea, have become the epicenters of COVID-19. And to hear more about what things are really like in churches and how Christians are taking the latest developments, we're now joined by Pastor Kim Sung-bok at Blooming Hill Methodist Church in Seongdong-gu District. Pastor Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, hello. My name is Andrew. You can call Andrew.
Sure. First and foremost, the most imperative thing that we need to discuss is how churches are implementing the boosted preventative measures. How has your church been following the recommendations up until now, and is it now ready to switch to online services?
Yeah, it's very important topic and sensitive. So I would like to introduce our church depending for virus, COVID-19. It was overwhelming and difficult situation to handle, but as a pastor, the first and foremost measure I took was focusing on protecting the congregation. As the pandemic was getting worse, the church members began facing with the religious and economic problems along with the infectious diseases. Actually, we can meet people every day through the YouTube channel. All the worship service is meetings, prayer meetings, and fellowship with the church members were replaced with recorded videos or live streaming with programs such as Zoom and Meet. You know what? It's very useful for communicating each other. Communion among church members is also important. The church members could not even come to church, and it was also impossible to visit them. So I began recording prayers and sent it to the church members, which I hope that it encouraged them in such a difficult time.
Well, it's good to hear that you've been adopting various online media formats to cope with the situation. Now, the government has once again boosted prevention measures on churches, allowing only no contact services while banning all other gatherings. How do you see this?
I think it was appropriate, but I also know that the majority of churches have done their best to curb the spread, maybe to the point that some churches did more than other places or sectors in our society. I think that churches are relatively safer compared to cafes and bars where cluster infections broke out after public gatherings and small group gatherings. Actually, the Protestant churches have a different structure with, from Catholic churches and Buddhist temples. The number of meetings and the type of meetings are also different. So, I think the government could have sought cooperation by directly communicating with churches. Unilateral caution or sanction could easily create resistance.
All right, one last question for you. We have only about 40 seconds left. Some organizations, like the Communion of Churches in Korea, argue that this is a religious persecution. What's your take?
You know what? The Communion of the Church in Korea?
한교연?
All right, I see. I think religion and politics should never be mixed. However, in time of crisis like this, religious institutions cannot insist on being completely independent of politics. So, I don't think it is a form of religious persecution. But at the same time, the government must be prudent and thoughtful when dealing with religions. In other words, if the government shows respect, religious institutions will cooperate more flexibly. The Communion of Churches of Korea, which is the union of conservative churches, does not represent all the other churches in Korea. But it is true that in the early days of the pandemic, and during the process that
All
follows.
right, Pastor Kim. I'm afraid we're running out of time. We'll have to leave it there, but thank
All
you
right,
so
all
much
right.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for today's COVID-19 live update. Thank you for listening and stay safe.